Well, hello, my sweet, beautiful people, and welcome back to a yearly tradition. It is our simulation of the Stanley Cup playoffs, of course, this time for 2025. Now, a couple things to get out of the way here before we get into this. First and foremost, I'm still recovering from an illness, so I'm probably going to sound like fucking RFK Jr. By the end of this, in terms of like the quality of my voice, not the horrific things that he says on a daily basis. So keep that in mind. Secondly, of course, we're simulating this in a video game. It's all for fun. But as we go through this, I am going to be going through the NHL Bracket Challenge as well and giving you guys my thoughts on all of that. As you can see, we'll have these matchups and we'll kind of go over what I think might happen there. But in terms of the video game, and the video game on its own, a couple of things to mention before we get into the sim. I have done my best to update the lines. I used Puckpedia. They seem to have the most up-to-date ones as of the very early morning of April 19th. So some of these lines might still end up being out of date. Obviously, we're going to talk about certain examples of players who might not be available for Game 1, but could be available later on in a series. And of course, again, I have no way to factor that in, so you know we'll be calm, we'll be chill on that front. But yeah, before we get into the sim, let's talk about each of these series. We'll start off Winnipeg, St. Louis. Winnipeg winning the President's Trophy, which I gotta be honest, now granted too, one other thing to mention in terms of these lines, it is EA's most recent roster update with a merged roster of the most recent Vasi Tactics 2G roster, so a couple of players that EA can't add in yet are in. But it's funny because you look at this roster on paper, and again, NHL ratings are only so meaningful, especially when it's the EA file, but it's not the craziest roster on paper. Obviously you have, the best goaltender in the world. Some people get mad at that, but obviously you have the best goaltender in the world in Connor Hellebuck leading the way. Gabe Vilardi, of course, not going to be factored into the sim, nor is Nick Ehlers, and if those two aren't actually available for the whole series, that would be a pretty rough loss for them. But it's another instance, I think, of them, again, kind of looking like they're better, or, being better, perhaps, than the sum of their parts. That's not to say that they're bad by any stretch of the imagination. They certainly aren't. But you just look at them and it's like, are they really that team? And maybe it's just because of prior shortcomings, in the playoffs that they've had. Whereas St. Louis, you look at their roster and I suppose you could say kind of the same thing, right? It's like you got some of the more younger players kind of mixed into that lineup now. They're just kind of playing that, hey, happy to be here role. But, it's like you add in Jimmy Snuggerud, who comes over from the NCAA and everything. Defensively, they're getting Colton Parayko back, which is a gigantic help, both, from a figurative standpoint, but also literally. The guy's huge. And then, of course, the beloved Jordan Binnington in goal. I don't know what to make of it. I'm also intrigued, by the way. Is Dylan Holloway fully hurt, or what's going on there? But in terms of looking at the bracket, right, like, I've seen this story before as a Bruins fan in regards to, what the Blues are capable of when they go on a run like this. And this is definitely not, to me, a slam dunk series that Winnipeg wins it. I do think that the Jets will. They have to. You cannot lose this series if you're the Jets. And I'm going to have a second bracket here as well, kind of the who I'm rooting for bracket. And I am rooting for Winnipeg, not because of 2019, because who fucking gives a shit? I mean, the crying Marchand meme is funny. He's not a Bruin anymore, so I can laugh about it. But there is going to be a pretty consistent theme for me here in terms of rooting for, teams that have not won the Stanley Cup. Obviously, St. Louis, though, an underdog run, I'm not going to be all that upset if St. Louis kind of goes on that crazy run again, But interesting first matchup there, and again, we'll get into the sim and see what the game thinks shortly. Dallas and Colorado. Dallas is a really interesting one because this team is built so damn well for the playoffs, just in terms of the sheer amount of depth that they have. It's still really just kind of insane, right? That Mikko Rantanen's on that freaking team now too. But obviously, there's concerns in this lineup as we're looking at it in the game, again, off of the reported lines a little bit before the sim, a little bit before the postseason starts, and of course, before we get the sim underway. And that is the status of Miro Heiskanen, and now the status of Jason Robertson, and if he's going to be 100% healthy. I mean, for my money, it's the best. I mean, I don't know. Do you put Rantanen ahead of Robertson? Probably. But Jason Robertson on a lot of teams is the best forward on that team, period. The fact they have him and Rantanen now is insane. Heiskanen's obviously the best defenseman on the Dallas Stars, and on most teams, he would be the best defenseman on that team. To be missing both of them, potentially, is something where it's like, man, you just have to question, like, are they going to be able to survive that? Whereas Colorado, obviously, like, getting Martin Necas, I mean, EA certainly loves him, and yeah, he's been a perfect fit there in terms of losing Rantanen. You know, they had Brock Nelson, Charlie Coyle at the deadline. They are a pretty well-built team, and they do have the forward X factor of Gabriel Landeskog. And how much is he going to play? Of course, after getting some playing time in the AHL with the Eagles, how much is he going to play? I cannot believe he stepped foot on on an ice surface in a professional game. I can't believe it, based off of the amount of time missed and everything like that. Like, it's crazy. If it wasn't for modern medicine, that man's retired, and he's becomes a pretty big, what if story. And then obviously defensively, they get Ryan Lindgren to hope that he's going to be better than what he was doing on New York. You still have Cale Makar, the best defenseman in the world, at least from an overall and especially offensive standpoint. It just makes me wonder kind of what the deal is here. In terms of who I think is going to win this series, I think it's Colorado. I wonder about those losses for Dallas and the fact that we're talking about top pair defenseman Cody Ceci. No disrespect to the guy. I do think he probably gets crapped on a little bit too much. But man, if he's playing, top 4 minutes, let alone top pair minutes against Colorado, I just don't know. If you're asking me who I'm rooting for, I do like Colorado a lot. I've talked about that. As a Bruins fan, the Avs were my second team for a long time because, as a kid, it's like, hey, Ray Bourque's God, and then he goes to Colorado and wins the Stanley Cup and stuff like that. So I'm not rooting against Colorado, very similar to St. Louis, but I would personally be rooting for Dallas to kind of pull through on this one, especially, too, it's been a lot longer since they've managed to win the Cup, but I just am so worried about those injuries. I don't know how you couldn't be. With the Vegas Golden Knights Minnesota Wild matchup, Vegas, again, like, you add Brandon Saad and Riley Smith, like, they're not the biggest names in the world, but you still got some of those core guys that were a part of the Cup win. Pavel Dorofeyev, stepping up and really breaking through, which is kind of shocking, right? Because, he was one of those guys where it's like, yeah, maybe he'll do something. And again, it's an EA rating, but it's tough to say, like, around an 84 is not kind of unjust based off of this season. Defensively, I'm sorry, that defense is still really freaking good. Not just like EA ratings, but just in general, like, you have that defense for your favorite team, you're going to be feeling pretty confident. Obviously, it's the goaltending. Is it Hill? Is it Samsonov? And even though Aiden Hill's won a Stanley Cup before, are you confident in him? Are you confident in Samsonov? Like, that's kind of the big X factor for them, right? Then you have Minnesota, who haven't won a playoff series in a decade, making it into the playoffs here as the top wild card team, and it's just interesting, right? It's like, are they ready? Because they have this big challenge of a somewhat recent, still obviously Stanley Cup winner, and it's so important for them to have this success, especially like as a sales pitch to this guy right here, to be like, man, you can stay here and you can win. We will pay you, and it's going to be good, right? So you have that factored in to kind of what's going on with Minnesota and what they might be able to do. And I don't think their depth's that bad either, right? It's like, obviously, like, Marco Rossi has really kind of taken that next step forward that they needed him to take. There's a lot of good pieces on this team. Like, it's a deep, well-rounded team. They have the big X factor of Zeev Bouillon making the team for the playoff run here. Obviously, someone like Brock Faber's still sick. And then in goal, Philip Gustafson's great. You got Marc-Andre Fleury behind him, who, they obviously have that story, right, of, oh, shit, this is Marc-Andre Fleury's final run. It's really tough. I would like to think that Minnesota can win this, but it's that type of thing where it's like you can't really trust a team until they give you a reason to trust them. So I do have to go with Vegas in that series. In terms of who I'm rooting for, and apparently it ended up resetting, but that is okay. I'm rooting for Minnesota in this one. Again, Vegas has won a cup recently. I don't really have anything against them, but Minnesota winning would be a really, really good story. So very much rooting for them on that front. And then the final first-round matchup in the Western Conference, Edmonton and Los Angeles, LA, the slightly higher seed, P2, in the Pacific Division. And they're just another interesting team. Now, obviously, this matchup in particular, I think, is the one that people are probably the most sick of. Maybe Dallas, Colorado as well, because of the nature of the playoff format. But you look at LA and you say, like, yeah, shit, no, that's a damn good roster. Especially on the defensive side, it might not be the sexiest names in the world. Like, from an EA perspective, 87 defensive awareness for the best defensive defenseman in the league is fucking hilarious. But I'm not going to get into ratings topics and conversations because, Jesus Christ, I've done that enough in my time. And then obviously Darcy Kemper has turned it around. Like, the Kemper-Dubois trade working out as well as it did is crazy. I think in a lot of matchups, you look at LA and it's just like, oh yeah, no, sure, they should be able to do it. But then they're going up against Edmonton. And I'm still not completely sold by this Oilers roster. I don't really know how anybody could be, all things considered. I don't think Max Jones was supposed to be there. I think it was supposed to be Polt Colson. It'll be Jones in the sim. It is what it is. They're equal players in the game, basically. But you look at this, this roster, and it's like, okay, Leon Draisaitl, another freaking incredible season after, recommitting to the team. You still have the best player in the world in Connor McDavid. Like, they have pieces, Jeff Skinner finally getting that playoff time. And then you get to the defense, and it's like, okay, like Darnell Nurse, who probably should have been suspended for this series, but it's like they added Jake Wallman. There is the question on defense of Mattias Ekholm, who in the sim is not going to be starting, but could very well be playing. At least he's not 100% heading into the playoffs, apparently. And again, if that's wrong, hey, whatever, blame the websites and stuff like that. And then you still have Stuart Skinner in goal. Are the questions and the concerns surrounding the Oilers from a year or two ago, have they been solved? I don't think so. I think it's still very much the same concerns, but obviously you're going to be talking about a super highly motivated team to get back, to the final and to try and make things happen. Yeah, I don't know. It's so tough. I want to trust Los Angeles on this. I do think Edmonton is going to win it. In terms of how many games, God, this is a tough one. Genuinely, I think all these could go. I'm just going to go 6. It doesn't necessarily matter. We'll just go 6 for all of them. Who cares? Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. I am going to be rooting for Edmonton as well, just for the sole purpose of, again, a team that hasn't won a cup in a long time. And it is best for the NHL from a business perspective to have the Oilers go far into the playoffs. But then, of course, we get to the Eastern Conference side of things as well. And I just realized combining these two videos mean this is going to be a very, very long video. But you know what? That's okay. Hence the voice going to be given out. We have Toronto and Ottawa. Leafs breaking through, winning the Atlantic. Obviously, there's some concerns over, what's Mitch Marner's future and everything like that as he breaks 100 points. The defense is, going to be looking like this in the sim, even though I'm pretty sure more people are actually healthy at the moment. And Stolar's wall, there's going to be that conversation. But yeah, in terms of, the health of, Oliver Ekman-Larsson, stuff like that. Again, Puckpedia didn't have him in, so I elected not to put him in. But I expect the Leafs defense to look a bit different than that. They're going up against Ottawa in the Battle of Ontario. And I got to be honest, it's pretty cool to see Ottawa back in the playoffs, as the top wildcard team. as well. I think any Sens fan being told, like, hey, sure, you're going to make the playoffs this year, they certainly would have taken it. You add Dylan Cousins, Fabian Zetterlund heading into the playoffs. Defensively, I mean, again, like Sanderson, Shabbat, it's not bad. You do wonder about Clevin and Matenpalo a little bit. But then in goal, the Linus Allmark trade has worked out in spades for them so far. And again, they don't really have too many, like major injury concerns or like question marks heading in to this series. I talked about it with other teams, right? Like you're concerned about Winnipeg because, all right, prove that you can get it done. You're concerned about like Minnesota, LA. I'm concerned about Toronto. I don't know how anybody couldn't be. Like they need to win this series. They should win this series. Am I betting money on them winning this series? Absolutely not. In terms of who I'm rooting for, by the way, in this particular series, I gotta be honest, I just had them inverted, but it's okay. It's the same answer. I'm rooting for either one of these two teams. I personally don't care. We'll go with the Leafs because I am a fan of, the SDPN, and I want to see Steve Dangle be happy from a sports perspective. But that series could go either way, and that's the nature of the Leafs, right? Until they finally break through, that is the nature of the Leafs, and like, Jesus Christ, like, can they finally find that consistency? We have the Battle of Florida as well, yet again. Tampa, losing Steven Stamkos, but then Brandon Hagel taking such a step forward, letting Stamkos go, I should say. Jake Gensel being what he is, having to run Darren Radish as a forward during the sim because they run 7 defensemen, or at least they have been. And then obviously, just in general, that defense is still really good, really well-rounded, really experienced with Hedman, McDonough, Chernak, and then obviously Andrei Vasilevsky still in goal. Bjorkstrand, questionable health-wise from the looks of it. It's interesting, right? Because you have Nikita Kucherov having just such a great freaking season yet again. And then you look at Florida, and it's like, no, Florida should still probably take this. I mean, especially, the addition of Brad Marchand at the deadline, which is still crazy, and this lineup's still good. But obviously, there is one name missing, and that is Matthew Tkachuk. And what is his health status? And is there any possible way that he's playing at 100% if he's going to play? As well, they're going to be missing Aaron Ekblad for the first couple games because he is still suspended. That's going to be a major factor as well, is, getting him into that lineup and having Aaron Ekblad be Aaron Ekblad. Sergei Bobrovsky is going to make the Hall of Fame now that he is Stanley Cup champion. But can anybody say with certainty that Sergei Bobrovsky is going to be the Sergei Bobrovsky that he's been? Or is he going to kind of turn back into the old Bobrovsky? Tough to say. You never know. I think more people are confident that he'll be what he's been. In terms of who I think is winning this matchup, I think it's Tampa. I think they're renewed. They're refreshed. Florida, they're not 100%. They haven't been playing great hockey as of late. And again, it's so tough to do like what Tampa did, right? Going to 2, let alone 3 straight Stanley Cup finals. Like, I think Tampa's probably going to take it. I just wonder about the gas tank and the health of the Florida Panthers at this point. Again, kind of similar on the other side, right? Where we talk about some of the injury concern and stuff like that could very much affect a really strong team. So I'm going with Tampa on this one. In terms of who I'm rooting for, I don't even necessarily care. I'm going to go for the Florida Panthers solely because of Brad Marchand, basically. But I'm not, tied to either one of those teams really all that much. Final 2, Washington and Montreal making the playoffs, which is crazy. For the Caps, obviously the big story of the year, Alexander Ovechkin now being the all-time goal scorer in the NHL. I don't make it a secret, like from a personal standpoint with him, not a fan of his. In terms of him being on the ice, like, yeah, he is the greatest goal scorer of all time. Obviously, being able to have his body hold up through means, perhaps, but having that longevity at the goal scoring, right, compared to someone like Mike Bossy, whose body betrayed him, and some of the other guys that have been up there from that goal scoring pace. It's insane. Pierre-Luc Dubois, that's worked out really, really well. Ryan Leonard joining the team. Things have been clicking. They haven't been playing the best hockey as of late, but it is still a really good roster. They do have one concern for goal, and that is it going to be Charlie Lindgren, or is Logan Thompson going to be fully healthy. Protas, obviously, his health status as well. There's just something about Washington, though, where it's like, okay, again, am I the most confident in them? And it probably helps that they're up against Montreal. But look, I'm going to say this as a lifelong Boston Bruins fan. Montreal doing well this postseason would be so fun to watch. It really would be. If I put aside like the sports, biases and rivalries and stuff like that, Montreal and Boston haven't been a heated rivalry in a decade now. And in general, like as a hockey fan now, it's like, yeah, the Bruins are still my team, but am I live and die with them? If they lose a game, is my day ruined? No. So objectively, then I can look at Montreal and just say that it's a really young, fun, exciting team to watch, especially now with the addition of Demidov, which his debut game, by the way, I'm sorry. In terms of in-arena atmosphere, nobody touches Montreal. Nobody does. Be mad at me, fellow Bruins fans, if you want. The atmosphere inside Bell Center is unmatched by anybody else in the league. And that could be a factor in the series, although the Caps are obviously very experienced with the leadership on that team. But man, Demidov, Hudson, Habs are back. They are back. And Sam Montembeault's been great this season. Like, he's finally turning into the goalie that the Florida Panthers thought he could be. They're pretty healthy as well, except for Kirby Dach, who's obviously out for the year. That said, who do I think wins this series? I do think it's pretty similar to when the Leafs made the playoffs against the Caps in like 2017. I think experience wins out, but the lessons learned are going to benefit Montreal and probably benefit them a lot sooner than the Leafs in terms of figuring it out in the playoffs. That said, could it go the other way? Absolutely. Who am I rooting for? Be mad at me if you want, Bruins fans. Be mad at me if you want. It's a more fun story if the Habs make it out of the first round. So again, be mad at me if you want. And then the last matchup, Carolina and New Jersey. Another weird one here. Carolina, just such a weird season, right? With the Rantanen move kind of blowing up in their face. They have all the pressure in the world on their shoulders in that this is a team that has just consistently underperformed. Despite making it to multiple Eastern Conference finals, they've underperformed because this has been viewed as a team for the past 4 or 5 years now where it's like, okay, true cup contenders. And they haven't gotten there yet. And with that roster, I still don't quite know if they're going to get there yet. That said, talking about New Jersey here, I like aspects of their roster. The depth is heavily affected, obviously, with key injuries. Now, defensively, you're talking about, hey, Dougie Hamilton's probably going to be back, and that's huge. And in goal, Markstrom, Allen, it's been a solid tandem and everything. Man, you're missing Jack Hughes. Siegenthaler might not be fully healthy as well, which, again, I haven't been able to follow every single team, but you just look at that, and I don't discount anything, but I just don't see New Jersey. I'm just going to go 6 again for all these. Who gives a shit? Yeah, we'll go 5 for Montreal, for Washington. 6, who cares? I just don't know if I could put the confidence in New Jersey when missing Jack Hughes that they're going to be able to get this done. Who am I rooting for in this series? Honestly, it's kind of Carolina. New Jersey winning despite missing Jack Hughes would be cool. Carolina, though, it's like, let's see you finally do it. Let's see you finally start doing things, please, because my God, it's so overdue. So before we get into the actual sim, just kind of finishing these 2 brackets. Again, this first bracket is who I think is going to win, as opposed to who I want to win. You look at Winnipeg and Colorado, and I'm sorry. We'll talk about who I want to win. I'm going Colorado. Prove me wrong, Winnipeg. Please. Spoiler, I'm going to be rooting for you to prove me wrong. Please prove me wrong. Vegas and Edmonton. This is a tough one. That's a real tough one. I might have to come back to that. Toronto and Tampa's tough too, even though the Leafs have beaten Tampa. And then there's Washington and Carolina. Man, this is tough. This is tough. But if I go with my gut on these, gut feeling is something like that. Gut feeling in terms of who wins is something like that. I want to pick Edmonton so badly. I do. But I don't know, man. Stuart Skinner, don't know. There are like some of these concerns. I have to be totally honest here. I think we're getting a rematch of a couple of years ago. I think Colorado and Tampa are both refreshed, renewed, and ready to make one more run at it. And maybe it's just, we've seen these two teams do so well now for so long that it's tough to pick against them. I think I'm going with Tampa. I don't know. Give me 27. Lucky number 27, baby. It's tough, right? It's tough. There's a legitimate argument, I think, for literally every single team, even fucking New Jersey, despite the Jack Hughes loss, to go on a crazy run. But like I said, there's just something about, not being able to trust the Leafs and the Jets to be able to get it done. I only trust the Hurricanes because I don't believe in the Caps. Edmonton, I know that they were able to make it, but again, how bad is that roster going to be, and have they addressed some of those depth concerns? I might be wrong, but that's just my gut feeling. In terms of who I'm rooting for, Winnipeg over Dallas, only because, again, it'd be nice to see Winnipeg, prove people wrong, and again, haven't won a cup. Oilers and Wild, I don't have an issue either way. I am going to go more for Minnesota, but I won't be upset to see Connor McDavid in a conference final again. Rooting for Toronto over Florida. I want to see the Leafs do the thing. Montreal and Carolina. Got to be honest, I want fun. I want this as a Final Four. And in terms of who I'm rooting for from here, that is a tough one. Eastern Conference side, give me the Leafs. Western Conference side, it pretty much comes down to who do I want to see win the cup, because I'm not picking the Leafs over them. And, the Jets proving people wrong and being able to finally get it done would be sweet. Minnesota winning a Stanley Cup and Marc-Andre Fleury's last year would be pretty sweet. But we all know Minnesota sports are fucking cursed. Give me the Winnipeg Jets. Give me the Winnipeg Jets in terms of the team that I am bandwagoning the hell out of. I'm here for it. But I think, as you can kind of tell, there's a lot of teams where it's like, man, I'm not going to mind if they end up winning, right? So now that we've gone through that, let's get into the sim. You guys have seen what the Lions look like and all of that fun stuff. And we'll see how this plays out here. Of course, we're going to jump to the in-depth sim and just kind of breeze through these pretty quickly. It looks like Winnipeg is going to take game 1, 5-1. Jordan Binnington not quite showing up. Look out for Morgan Barron and Mason Appleton. And Connor Hellebuck actually played well in an EA simulation. Imagine that. But yeah, I don't know. I'm intrigued to see what the game happens to get, how close it might be to my personal bracket. We'll see. See, there you go. Minnesota looking good. Look at Minnesota. Maybe Vegas is going to have some goaltending concerns. Maybe they are, as the Wild take game number 1. More strong goaltending. Eriksson Ek and Boldy. It's not too bad, but it's funny because now I'm just thinking back to those brackets. And again, it's like so many of the matchups are just toss-ups, both for who I think will win, who I'm rooting for. I think there are a lot of good stories for a neutral fan whose favorite team did not make it. In terms of rooting for teams that are either good stories or, rooting for teams that have simply never won the cup before. There's a lot of good options out there. So, I've kind of talked about it, right? Like my fandom as a hockey fan, like I don't agree with a lot of things the NHL happen to be doing. from numerous different standpoints, whether it be the frickin' Department of Player Safety, just the kind of nonsense back and forth between the NHL and the PA that, is kind of playing with fire in regards to player safety and stuff like that. Neck guards, for example. There's a lot of different rants that you've probably heard me go on, if you watch on Twitch every night, or some of them might have carried over to some of the YouTube videos as well that have gone up on the channel. But at the end of the day, I mean, I've been a lifelong hockey fan. I had no choice. Both my parents, loved the sport. I was like, I had no choice, essentially, but to be a hockey fan. It was either I was going to love it or I was going to absolutely hate it. Been a hockey fan all my life. That's not going to change. And the playoffs come around, and I mean, come on, especially the first round, you're just getting multiple games a night. Like that feeling just is very tough to beat from an entertainment standpoint, let alone when specifically talking about sports, right? So very, very much excited for the playoffs. It's funny too, because I know I got asked the question quite a bit, like, oh man, the reason why you're kind of meh about the NHL right now is because the Bruins are bad. And it's like, no, I'm happy the Bruins are bad. I mean, it kind of sucks. Within like 2 years, they go from setting the record for most wins in a season and blowing it against the Panthers in the first round to being, bottom 5 in the league. Like, that's a crazy drop off. But, and I said it heading into the season quite a bit, it's one of those things where it's like you could just kind of tell that their time was running out, because for so long, so much longer than anybody expected, but for so long, you were talking about a core that just kept fighting and just kept putting up great performances and keeping that team in a super competitive state. You can only stretch that band for so long before it gives. And Zadorov and Lindholm and these signings to try and keep it going. It just felt like heading into the season that this is probably it. And maybe that was just pessimism from some people, myself included. But ultimately that is that's how it ended up, right? It's just like, okay, they're not going to make it. And then they're, just plummeting down the standings at the end of the season, which is exactly what they needed, right? The chance at a top 5, top 8 pick, let alone potentially a first overall pick. Now, granted, if you're going to get a first overall pick, this isn't a bad year to have it. Next year with Gavin McKenna is going to be even better because, oh my God, speaking of, oh my God, Minnesota, Jesus. But yeah, I wouldn't really say that affected like the fandom at all. It's a lot of the decisions that they're making, even something, as relatively minor as the playoff bracket, right? Like I saw a post on the Our Hockey subreddit that mentioned what the bracket would have been had it been the traditional like 1 through 8 format that the NHL's gotten away from. And some of those matchups as well looked sick, right? I mean, you still would have had Winnipeg and St. Louis, but instead we'd have LA and Colorado, Edmonton and Dallas, which I think would be sick. And then on the Eastern Conference side, you'd have Carolina and Florida, which I think would be super interesting because of the pressure on Carolina to break through like Florida did, Florida looking to repeat. You'd have Toronto and New Jersey, which, I mean, in theory is an easier matchup than Ottawa and certainly, kind of takes the pressure off of the Battle of Alberta and stuff like that. And then you'd have Tampa and Ottawa, which I think is another super interesting matchup of, this dynasty. And then here's the Sens finally breaking through. And it's like, okay, Lightning trying to prove like, hey, we're still here. We're still a serious threat. And the Sens trying to prove that, like, hey, us making the playoffs, like we're not just fodder for immediate elimination. Not to say, again, you don't have interesting stories, right? When we talked about my brackets and, all the different possibilities that you have, there are a lot of interesting combinations and everything. But, man, that 1 through 8. So it's something like that where it's just like, I don't know, to me, like I see it brought up all the time, right? It seems like most people want the 1 through 8 back, NHL doesn't give a shit. Screw you. We're going to do what we want to do, how we want to do it, deal with it. And, I think it depends on who you ask. Like, am I extremely bothered by it from the bracket standpoint? No, some people might be. Like, I would like to see it changed. But they carry that attitude everywhere, it feels like. They have that attitude when it comes to the standard of officiating. And it's like, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do? Stop watching? No, of course you're going to keep watching because we're the NHL. Deal with it. Same thing with the Department of Player Safety and the inconsistencies and like freaking Darnell Nurse, playing, the whole series, which, again, is nuts. And it just kind of feels like, well, we're doing that because the drama of the two teams that are playing in the first round. And I mentioned the player safety in regards to like, there's been no, NHL enforced reaction to the death of Adam Johnson because it's a political thing between the league and the DOPS. And, the DOPS, you can't force us to do anything, even though it's for our safety without giving us something back. And it just becomes this political back and forth, right? There's just a lot of stuff like that. You have some of the real world stuff as well, right? Like, screw it, whatever, we'll talk about it. I mentioned Alexander Ovechkin, fan of him on the ice, off the ice, fucking founder of Putin team. And one of the NHL's biggest stories ever is celebrating this dude. And look, I know some people are going to be like, oh, what choice does he have? Whatever. Artemi Panarin's family's fine. Although Artemi Panarin isn't. Isn't that right, Rangers fans? Holy fuck, can we go a season? A single season? Please? Holy shit. You get stuff like that, right? Popping up all the fucking time. Same season in which John Tortorella, before he gets fucking fired, we had Carter Hart, would be in a better spot. Well, you don't, because Carter Hart's a fucking idiot. A fucking scumbag. You get what I mean in regards to a lot of this? Like, it's been difficult. Unless you're someone who could just turn your brain off and be like, I am just going to enjoy this for what it is and not think about anything else. I'm envious of those people. Unless you're somebody that can do that and like separate art from artist, the NHL and a lot of things surrounding the NHL, it's just been kind of gross. It's been kind of gross, right? And I mean, it's been that way for, especially like 4 years now, right? Like, it just feels like a valve was opened when the Kyle Beach story broke, and then we just keep getting these examples of the spotlight being shown on the NHL's like seedy underbelly, and it's tough to put the toothpaste back in the tube in terms of just being like, okay, well, I know, like, here's all this shit, but I'm just going to focus on the hockey, when the hockey itself is still affected by the NHL's nonsense. I'm ranting. I'm rambling, right? Certainly. But you get the point. All of that to say, am I still excited for the playoffs? Of course I am. Because hockey, can't turn that part of my freaking brain off. It's been hardwired at this point. But, it's, like I said, there's a lot that goes into it, right? It's why the podcast, Twiggy Steak podcast didn't really happen this season, along with like Sin, Endo, and I just having different schedules than what we had in previous years is just... a lot, the old saying, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. Well, for a lot of the bigger stories for the NHL this year, I didn't really have anything nice to say. So I didn't really want to be doing a podcast or making a ton of videos where all I do is talk about how much I'm not enjoying something. I think that's just a really way to be, So I don't know. Maybe there's some growth on that too. I mean, especially when, a lot of content creation is like, screw it, negativity all the time. But, you can only have so much of that in your life before you're just like, yeah, no, I'm not dealing with any more of that nonsense. And it's like, well, if the NHL hit that point, it's like, again, it's okay to take a step back as a fan and just be a little bit less diehard and fanatical than you might have been in the past. And that can go for anything, right? In terms of freaking music or whatever the hell. That can go for pretty much anything. Just so happens that's been the NHL for me. But obviously, still care enough to make a video like this. Still interested in talking about the playoffs and following along and all that fun stuff. as you look forward to every April. I mean, granted, it shouldn't. It's freaking April 19th when this is getting uploaded, and the playoffs still, technically, as I'm recording this, there hasn't been a game played, and it's like, Jesus, like, that's another thing I'm very much on board for. Like, dude, we're going to be playing Stanley Cup Final games until late June. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a freaking Stanley Cup Final game, like it goes 7. Like, Christ, if it's not this year, one of these years, we're going to hit July. Or June. Yeah, July. Yeah, damn. Yeah, that's nuts. Sorry, like, my brain, like, bricked just at the thought of it. It's like, that's not possible. It is. It is because of the NHL and just the weird freaking ways that they do things. It's something. It is something. All right, Carolina takes a 2-1 lead on New Jersey. Good game from Markstrom. I think they'd certainly take that outcome. St. Louis is up 2-1 on Winnipeg here. Again, we've seen this story before with the Blues. Jets, though, trying to battle back, and they do. Shutout win for Connor Hellebuck. And if he plays like that IRL, that could be a really, really short series. But again, hopefully this postseason is the story of, certain teams emerging and proving that they're legitimate contenders and not just fodder for the already established legitimate contenders. It's always more fun when teams break through. I think that's what made the Florida Panthers run so interesting in terms of winning the Stanley Cup, is this team breaking through where you could see the pieces in place and it's like, okay, can they get there? And, they make it to the final and everything, and then all of that. Like, just to see that is awesome, especially when it's either a team that's been bad for a long time or just a team that, hasn't won in a long time, like either or. Like, it's going to be fun when Buffalo finally figures it out. Are they? Are they going to do that? Maybe one of these days. I mean, they do have the longest freaking active playoff drought now in the NHL, which is just insane. But it's like, you talk about a team like Detroit and how they were able to get close to making the playoffs and still falling short. Like, in some ways, it's going to be nice to have the Red Wings be halfway decent again. Just whether or not it's Steve Yzerman at the helm when that finally happens is the question, because that Yzer plan's looking a little bit shaky. But again, too, like the flip side of that coin, dude, Demidov in this sim is fucking crushing it, by the way. The flip side of that, right, is like the Rangers, Penguins, and Bruins all failing, for the first time in NHL history to make the playoffs in the same season. And, those have been teams that have been good for a really long time. Yes, it is now 3 straight years that the Penguins have missed the playoffs. But, to get that changing of the guard, as Dallas nearly blew that game, oh my God, to get that changing of the guard it's fun. I mean, unless it's your favorite team that was really, really good and then they're really, really bad. But I can find the optimism in it as a Bruins fan. And it's probably from, Sin being a Sharks fan and everything. CYN FTW Productions right here on YouTube, of course. In terms of him being a Sharks fan and everything and watching that team go from being really, really good to now being really, really bad. But then you get those moments of like, okay, those bright spots, especially if you get a first overall pick. But those bright spots of like, man, this guy, he's good. He could be a part of something when the team turns the corner and stuff like that. I'm looking forward to that. I think you can find the positive and the optimism, regardless of what situation your team is in, unless you're a Buffalo Sabres fan, in which case there's no optimism, there's only pain. So don't worry, Sabres fans. I will openly acknowledge that, because that is the truth. That is the truth, and I won't try to pretend otherwise. If you are a Sabres fan, existence is pain and nothing else. Speaking of pain, let's see if Carolina can pull off the sweep here. And okay, never mind. New Jersey says no, especially with Daniel Sprong. God damn, imagine Daniel Sprong actually just goes off like that in the playoffs after being in the AHL earlier this season. God, what a weird career. weird career he has had already. Let's see, of course, this first round is the one that always takes the longest. St. Louis and Winnipeg. Kyrou gets a goal. Wow, that held up as the winner. Good Lord, 38 save shutout for Jordan Binnington. It can happen. It can happen. I'm still not legally allowed to talk negatively about Jordan Binnington. It's only been 6 years, coming up on 6 years now since the Blues beat the Bruins. I'm not allowed to speak negatively about Jordan Binnington for at least another 4, if not a little bit more. It's at least another 4 without it coming off as just being salty that he beat my favorite team in the Cup Finals. Unless Binnington screws it up and does something like so abhorrent on or off the ice, in which case it's then like, okay, no, anybody can dunk on this guy because Jesus Christ, not even Blues fans will defend him. I don't know if that's going to happen. I'm not rooting for something bad to happen. So yeah, I'm not going to say anything negative about Jordan Binnington. I would never. He's the greatest goalie of all time. Beat the Boston Bruins nearly single-handedly. He and Braden Schen's elbows. It got the job done. 2019. That's what happened. That is what happened. Got shot to Anthony Stolarz, too. What a run he's having. Dude, Montreal's up 3-1 on Washington here. I said anything could happen. Lane Hudson gets a goal. And there you go, Habs fans. Confirmation. Gonna knock out Washington in 5 games. I said I was rooting for the Habs. And it could very well happen. EA thinks it's gonna happen. Montreal, the second team, to punch their ticket to the next round, along with Vegas knocking out Minnesota. Let's see if Colorado can do the same here. Kiviranta, totally Spanish. If you know, you know. And Dallas says, hell no, we won't go. Mikko Rantanen goes off. Absolutely goes off in that game. 4 assists for Granlund. What's still a really good pickup for the Stars. Like I said, I feel kind of bad about picking Colorado in the first round, but because Dallas might have the depth to survive those major injuries, which is nuts. Nobody should have that amount of depth, but they might. They might. As Los Angeles putting the boots down on Edmonton. That's the Stuart Skinner I'm afraid of that could show up if I'm an Oilers fan. That concerns me. That concerns me. Florida looking to knock out Tampa. See if they can do it. Perbix, Point, get goals. Still 2-1, and Tampa survives as well. Jesus, apparently some of these series are going to go the distance. Apparently. Vasilevsky, 35 saves. Damn. Damn. Carolina. Finish off New Jersey. Come on, what are you doing here? Let's not mess around here. New Jersey up 1-0. Nico Hischier. Jarvis and Myers score, and Carolina does knock them out. That is a ridiculous third period. But there it is. Carolina is going to take care of business and get past the Devils. I do wonder, man, if Jack Hughes was healthy, fully healthy, what would the Devils be able to do this year now that, the goaltending is not as big of a concern? That is the question. Let's see. Winnipeg looking to get the dub, and they do. It was closer than it looked like it was going to be. But a 5-3 win, led by Kyle Connor, Bruins legend. At least he should have been. And that's going to 7. Toronto looking to finish off Ottawa here. Let's see if they can. Up 2-1. Still 2-1. And there it is. The Leafs going to knock out the Sens in 6 games. So saith EA Sports. And they would never lie, even though their simulation said the Rangers were going to win the Stanley Cup at the beginning of the year. Colorado. That was such an EA thing to happen to. Team like the Rangers falling short. In fairness to them, it's like, come on, man. The Rangers fucking blew it this year. Good Lord. Colorado 4-1 over Dallas. Big game from Mackenzie Blackwood. Still kind of crazy, too, the run of form he has been on. The Avs advance. Edmonton looking to knock out Los Angeles. Can they do it? 1-1. 3-2 Edmonton. Overtime in Game 6. And the Oilers win it. Leon Draisaitl. Who else would it be? I feel bad, by the way, for not necessarily intentionally antagonizing Oilers fans, but I mean, come on, you can understand the concerns, right? Come on, you've watched that depth. You get it. You understand. It's concerning. That's all I'm saying. As Panthers nearly mount the comeback, but not enough. Zemgus Girgensons, Latvian hero, saves the day there. I believe that one was also going to 7. Yes, it was. So, first game 7 of 2. St. Louis and Winnipeg. This could easily happen in real life. Easily. Blues up 1-0. Jets up 2-1. Winnipeg wins in 7. I don't think that would be the inspiring victory that the Jets need, by the way, is to only, survive in 7 games over the Blues. That would be very, very concerning. And then Battle of Florida. Let's take a look here and see how it plays out. Panthers up 2-0. Lightning up 3-2. And EA agrees with me. Tampa gets the win in 7. And it's because Brandon Hagel is the GOAT. Confirmed. So we end up with Winnipeg, Colorado, Vegas, Edmonton, Toronto, Tampa, Montreal, and Carolina. Okay, Nathan MacKinnon leading the way. I'll take a look at the stats at the end of it, but Colorado, Winnipeg. Let's see what happens in the second round. Perfetti, Tanev, McKinnon, a couple goals for the Avs. Nathan MacKinnon still crushing it. Oof. Connor Hellebuck falls apart in game number 1. Big game for McKinnon, Natchez, and Lehkonen. Let's see, Edmonton and Vegas, the other Western matchup. And again, real life, this would be a series where it's like, man, it could just go either way. It really, really could. Vegas, though, takes game 1. A couple goals in the third period from Jack Eichel, or as he's been affectionately known on this channel as Jack Eichel. Tampa and Toronto, a rematch. And again, Tampa is probably even scarier than when the last time these two teams met. Probably, right? I mean, again, like you think, like, oh yeah, Stamkos and everything, but Leafs win game 1 here. Big game for Nick Robertson, Bobby McMahon, and Pontus Holmberg. Leafs Twitter would explode if they were to lead them to a game 1 victory. Montreal and Carolina. Let's see if Carolina is legit. They do take game 1. Shane Gostisbehere, still perhaps the most underrated defenseman. He might be the most underrated player in the league. Man, he has just gone so long without being appreciated as such a solid player. And I don't understand it. I really don't. Let's see. Colorado, Winnipeg, game number 2. McKinnon and Jack Drury sealed the deal. Mackenzie Blackwood, another first-star performance in this playoff sim. Makes sense. Edmonton and Vegas. Golden Knights looking to take a 2-0 lead. Scoreless first. 1-0 Vegas in the second. And Vegas is up. Hurdle and Smith. It's still weird, right? Like, no one talks about Tomas Hurdle anymore. Maybe he is just like a little bit overshadowed from a Vegas perspective, but who's to say? Let's see. Leafs trying to go up 2-0 here. Kelly Armkrok scores. Goal apiece. Again, Mermis probably doesn't actually play for them. And Matthew Nyes scored the winner. Better than Matthew could, or Brady. Shit, some Leafs fans might argue he's better than Matthew Tkachuk as well. There is certainly the direct Nyes versus Brady Tkachuk arguments that I've seen, which I'm going to abstain from that argument. You go ahead and let me know who you think is better. I'm going to stay out of that one. Gonna stay out of that one. As Laine's goal is not enough. Freddie Anderson, playoff Freddie. Trying to prove it's not just playoff Freddie. Oh, let's see. Who else? We got Winnipeg and Colorado. I was trying to think if there was anything I didn't mention either, but I think we're good. As Colorado gets the win on Winnipeg. Again, a series like that, if that happens, just makes you wonder. Dude, Nathan McKinnon is showing up like as the 3 stars, one of the 3 stars in like every single Avs game that we're simming. They're up 3-0 on the Jets in this timeline. Oilers and Golden Knights. Oilers need a win. 3-all. And the Oilers do get a win. Draisaitl and McDavid. Had to be. It's got to be if you are the Oilers, right? With no disrespect, of course, to Zach Hyman. And then let's see. Toronto, Tampa. God, again, cold. I apologize for the random coughs. Oh, Brandon Carlo, Bruins legend. Matthews and Morgan Riley, 3-0. Damn. Shout out to Anthony Stolarz, 32 save shutout. Not bad, not bad. Canes up 2-0 on the Habs here. Let's see. Montreal, 2 goals. Goal for Carolina with Taylor Hall, and Montreal holds on to win. All right. No sweep for the Hurricanes over the Habs. Sam Montembeault, strong effort. Not bad, not bad. Colorado looking for the sweep of Winnipeg. If they can get it, Kiviranta scores again. Nelson and Girard, and apparently there you have it. Colorado's going to sweep Winnipeg. I said that was my concern when we got to that actual matchup in my own personal bracket. That just is Winnipeg truly legit. Colorado's scary still. It's an interesting spot to be in, isn't it? Very, very interesting spot to be in. Overtime here in Game 4. Oilers survive it. Leon Draisaitl again. Because who else would it be? Great game for Stuart Skinner as well. Oilers need to hope that that version of Stuart Skinner shows up. Toronto trying to sweep Tampa. Let's see, Lightning up 1-0. Lightning still up by a goal. Ooh, going to overtime. Leafs pull off the sweep. Morgan Riley. Toronto on their way to the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time since, God, what was it? I want to say like 93. I don't know. I need to look this up really quickly. Maple Leaf seasons. When is the last time the Leafs made the conference final? Simulate this game here while I look up that answer because it might take me a while to scroll back far enough. Conference final, of course, against Philly. Conference finals. Oh, yeah, 2002 against the Hurricanes. That makes sense. It's not that far back. Well, I mean, it is. It's over 20 years. Not quite as far back as I thought. For some reason, I thought when they lost to the Hurricanes, that was only the semifinals as opposed to the conference finals. But, well, there you go. You learn something new every day. A bunch of people are probably yelling at me. It's 0-2. What do you mean you don't know this? And I'm sorry. They made the conference finals in 99, too, when they lost to the Sabres. What do you want from me? And they made it in 94, and they lost to the Canucks because they were still in the Western Conference. It was weird. It was a different time. God damn it. Did I look at the 3 stars? I don't even know. I did because I saw Jordan Stahl's weird caveman face. All right. So 2 series done. We got a 2-2 here. The only Desmond. Edmonton and Vegas. Vegas has blown a 2-0 lead. Let's see. They're up 2-1. Now 2-2. And Vegas regains the lead. All right. Draisaitl put up a pretty good fight there. Shout out to Barbashev. Getting it done. And Carolina, another chance to knock out Montreal. See if they can do it. Scoreless first. 4-1 in the second. Demidov scores, but certainly not enough. And indeed, Carolina knocks out Montreal. So far, that bracket of what I thought was going to happen is lining up decently well here with the EA bracket, which means I am completely wrong. Except obviously Toronto moving on. Let's see if Vegas can finish the job against Edmonton, or if we will have yet another Game 7 going to overtime. A very late McDavid goal. Dude, I don't know about you. Can you envision that goal? Connor McDavid, 13 seconds left to save the Oilers season. It goes to overtime. And then they win it in overtime. Zach Hyman. Like the noise in that building, the atmosphere, I can imagine it. Insane. Absolutely insane. Sure, Vegas fans think it would be a nightmare. So here we go. Game 7. Who is going to play Colorado in the Western Conference Finals? Oilers up 1-0. Oilers win it. Zach Hyman's goal holds up as the winner. So I'm 50% of the way in terms of agreement with EA. The Oilers come back from 2-0 down to take the series in 7. So it'll be Oilers and Avs, Leafs, Hurricanes. That'd be a sick Final Four, wouldn't it? That'd be sick, especially this matchup, just the offensive firepower between these two teams. Oilers striking first. Both teams, in fairness, with goalies that at times have been very, very, very concerning. And, Mackenzie Blackwood was definitely the most concerning goalie of the bunch in that first game. Shout out to Jeff Skinner. Playoff Jeff Skinner. See, maybe that's the key for the Oilers, right? Is they have Jeff Skinner. He's never been in the playoffs before. Turns out Jeff Skinner is an automatic Stanley Cup victory. Nobody knew it before because, Carolina and Buffalo. Speaking of Carolina, good Lord, Toronto. Oh, dude, down 4-0 after the first period, game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals. Dude, Scotiabank would sound like a morgue. That place would be so somber. Oh my God. And every camera in the province of Ontario would be pointed directly at Steve Dangle just to get his reaction. Oh, it would be brutal. It'd be so, so brutal. As the Oilers up 2-0 on the Avs here. My pick not looking all that solid. Scott Wedgwood ended up in the game. Jeff Skinner was up there yet again. Let's take a look. Carolina looking to go up 2-0. And scoreless first. 2-0. 2-1. Oof. Carolina up 2-0, man. Dude, Leafs, Hurricanes. That would be such a fun conference final because of the immense pressure that both teams are under to finally get to a final. The Hurricanes obviously just to win a game in the conference finals, the Leafs just to get there. Just the old saying of man, I sounded like fucking dog video. I can't even speak anymore. The old saying of pressure makes diamonds? I mean, just the clenching that would be going on. Leafs fans, Hurricanes fans would be shitting diamonds throughout the course of that particular series as Colorado gets a win on Edmonton. Remember how I said eventually I'd sound like RFK? I think that was the first moment the brainworms got to me. What can I say? Hurricanes looking to take a 3-0 series lead on the Leafs. I said it would sound like a morgue. Ooh, in the other game. Leafs get the win, though. They battle back. Series not done. I mean, 3 of the guys that they definitely need to lead the way. If they're going to make it to the conference finals, let alone beyond. Oilers looking to take a 3-1 series lead. McKinnon continues his ridiculous pace here in the playoffs. And indeed, Colorado gets it done. Ross Colton's goal holds up as the winner. Another gigantic game for Mackenzie Blackwood. This game fucking loves him. Good Lord. Leafs trying to tie up their series as well. 4-1 at the end of the first. Still 4-1 and a 5-2 win. So both series tied at 2 games apiece. All right. Fair enough and fair play. Let's see what we have next here. Who's going to have the advantage? A 1-1 split. Whoops, didn't mean to hit start there. Of course, it does mean we'll be able to look at the Stanley Cup Championship raise and all of that. Got 3-1 there and 3-2. Victor Arvidsson scores, but it is not enough. So there is that. Let's see who will have the advantage heading into Game 6 in this particular series. Scoreless first period, 1-1, Martinook and Matthews. Ooh, overtime. Leafs win it. Max Domi against his former club, one of many. But Max Domi, the overtime hero. Leafs and Avalanche, each 1 win away. The Leafs have won 3 straight games, I think, right? Carolina was up 2-0. Colorado, 2-1. 6-1. The Colorado Avalanche almost blew it. Colorado going to the Stanley Cup Final yet again, knocking out the Edmonton Oilers in the Western Conference Finals. And again, it's not the most improbable result, but the question is, Leafs or Hurricanes? Canes trying to force Game 7 if they can, and they do. There will, oh my God, a Game 7 in Toronto. Winner goes to the Stanley Cup Final. Must watch television. Must watch television. Could not miss that game. That would be insane. And we're going to see who wins that particular matchup here. First period, 1-0. Oh, man, Jackson Blake scoring. Just imagine how quiet it would be. Imagine the nervousness for the players, for everybody. As son of former Leaf Jason Blake, Jackson gets the goal. Oh, my God. Again, in these circumstances, I can envision and imagine what the atmosphere would be like, the reactions. Oh, my God. 6-2. Hurricanes going to the Stanley Cup Final. Leafs suffering somehow an even bigger heartbreak than all of those Bruins losses, really. Stanley Cup Final, Avs and Hurricanes. Can't say it's unrealistic. It very well could happen. And we will see who's going to win the cup here as Carolina takes Game 1, fending off a late surge and a goal by Nathan MacKinnon. Is it Carolina's year? That is Game 1 in the books. What about Game number 2? Derek Jeter. Number 2. Derek Jeter. It's going to overtime is what's happening. And Colorado steals it. 3 unanswered goals. Power play tally in overtime. Martin Necas gets the winner. Aho was still apparently first star of the game. And again, Mackenzie Blackwood. Tremendous, tremendous effort. So 1-1 split in the final. See, game number 3. Strong start for the Avs. Carolina looking for the pushback. They get it to force overtime. But Colorado still wins. Nathan MacKinnon. Who else would it be? Big result for MacKinnon. Dude, this game, okay, like if you're playing franchise mode using EA's rosters, use Mackenzie Blackwood, apparently. That is what we are learning. Of course, I don't use EA's rosters at all, but there you go. Jesus Christ. Okay, don't use Mackenzie Blackwood. Never mind. If that's not the most EA thing, I don't know what the hell is. As Carolina absolutely brutalizes Colorado and wins 7-1. And somehow Taylor Hall, with just 2 points, was the second star of the game. That is wild. 2-2 split. It's basically a best of 3 from now on. Let's see what happens in Game 5. Carolina starting off strong in terms of the scoring. Colorado, outshooting Carolina to death. But the goaltending just cannot be beaten. Freddie Anderson turning around the narratives of playoff Freddie and the struggles, and the Hurricanes are 1 win away from winning the Stanley Cup in 2025. Let's see if they can do it in Colorado, no less. And they are up by 2 heading into this third period. Let's see if the Canes are going to get it done. MacKinnon scores. Lehkonen ties it. Son of a bitch. If this goes to overtime, I don't have the voice to commentate. Stankoven scores. Of course, this would just be an absolutely wild and right down the middle. Yep, Lehkonen. We're going to miss the cup raising at this point. You got to be kidding me. Oh, you got to be kidding me. You know what? It is what it is. It is what it is. If Carolina wins it, they win it. If Colorado forces Game 7, they force Game 7. If we miss the cup raising, we miss it. As anticlimactic as that is, if it goes to double overtime, we'll jump in. Come on, Colorado, score. Force Game 7. Force Game 7. If it goes to double overtime, we'll jump in because it might end quickly at that point. Sweet Jesus. Double overtime. Stanley Cup on the line. Well, screw it. We'll have to watch and see how it plays out. Here I was thinking we'd be able to avoid this, but I mean, we don't want to miss the moment, do we? I don't think we want to miss the moment, especially if Carolina's raising the cup for the second time in franchise history. So allow me to grab my headset that I wasn't even wearing, and I just pulled a damn pad off the ear. Son of a bit. Well, okay. Well, I'm not going to have game audio for the moment, but we're going to see what happens in this particular game. See if anybody can get a win while I try to fix this damn headset. Because that's just the thing that happens, and we'll see if Colorado can force Game 7 or if Carolina's going to win the Cup. You're on the road. Of course, this very building that they're in, good old Ball Arena, they have seen the Stanley Cup raised here at least once before. McCarr to McKinnon, and there will be a Game 7. That did not last long. So 2025 Stanley Cup Final. Of course, it was Nathan McKinnon. It is going to Game 7. The two teams that pulled off the blockbuster for Mikko Rantanen. Apparently the Hurricanes could have used him because there will be a 7th game. What a backdoor pass, by the way, from McCarr to McKinnon. Just wide open. Buries it. And Game 7 coming up as well. Freddie Anderson could not make that particular save. So we will see what happens. Dude, Game 7 would be sick. I mean, you can never really complain about a Game 7 unless you're a Boston Bruins fan and you're talking about the 2019 Stanley Cup Finals. You're welcome, Blues fans. See, we brought it back around. We brought it back around. You know? We did what we had to do. 50th shot of the game for the Avs. And they get it done. So here we go. Game 7. Who's going to win it? And then we'll take a look at, of course, the final points and all of that. First period, 2-1 Hurricanes, Hall and Jarvis. Second period, 4-3 Hurricanes. My God. Very, very close game. This could easily go to overtime again. Nathan McKinnon ties it, dude. Nathan McKinnon in this is trying to just will this team to a championship, which, yeah, sounds about right. We might actually go to overtime again. This is insane. Are we actually going to go to overtime and have to watch this play out? You have to be kidding me. All right, well, it's meant to be that we are supposed to watch this play out to see who is going to win the Stanley Cup. There was just no other choice, no other way to go about it until we find a winner. McKinnon and Aho on the draw. I can only hope that this ends quickly, but I can't say I have my hopes up that it will end quickly. And plug in the old headset to get some audio. Yeah, I'll be fine, actually. All that time fixing the headset, I'm not even going to use the damn thing. As Devon Taves, good save by Anderson. And we're hoping to see this end relatively quickly, because I don't exactly have too much of a voice left at this point. It's been over an hour, man. But we're trying. We're trying. Let's see here. Both teams' top lines still out there. Face-off one. Shot block. It's Aho to Slavin. Now to Jackson Blake. Slavin. My God, that was close. Blackwood still down. Nice shot by Blake. Another save. Jarvis able to drop it down. Burns had no idea where he was. Good hit. Kotkaniemi for Slavin. Nice poke. Foot race for it. Fresh legs off the bench. Svechnikov. Burns to Kotkaniemi. Back to Svechnikov. Had a 4-goal game in this playoff. Taylor Hall trying to break through. Hard just stripped him of it. Oh, Martin Necas. I still, by the way, do not like these Avs road jerseys. I'm sorry. The blue pants just don't do it. I just don't know what it is about them. They're so weird. Carolina nearly wins it. Taylor Hall gets it back. Orloff, what a save. Puck in the air. And that is the perfect way for an EA simulation to end. The Carolina Hurricanes are going to do it. They're going to win the Stanley Cup this year.
The cup is on the ice, and now it's time to hand out the magical piece of hardware.
And this is the anticipation. You know that there's an order that they're aware of, but we aren't. Can't wait to see it.
And here he comes, the captain of the squad. And when you talk about ultimate leaders in sports, the amount of times he wins, Cheryl, he might be the epitome of leader.
Well, I would say so. I mean, hoisting the puck multiple times, it's unbelievable. You know you have to have skill, but this is arguably the toughest trophy to win, and he just puts it on repeat.
You know, I was intrigued at who the AI was going to choose because I have no control of that right now. Freddie Anderson was a good choice. I thought they were going to go to, like, Jackson Blake for a second. It would have been very funny. Well, it makes me wonder. Brent Burns probably gets it first, right? Right? From Jordan Staal to Brent Burns. Then to maybe... I mean, I know Martinook's a big part of that team. And you got Taylor Hall in there as a veteran now. Hurricanes fans, let me know who gets the Stanley Cup in your dream. In your wildest dreams, they win the cup. What is the order of the handoff for the Hurricanes this year? I am intrigued. Because for me, like, I really would think it would be Brent Burns first. Could be wrong. But it's like you're definitely looking at like Burns, Anderson, and then like Aho, Martinook are definitely going to be in there. Taylor Hall. There's some good shouts. I don't know if there's a like guarantee of who gets that cup after Jordan Staal, though. Well, there you have it, though. Team picture in the books. It's official. It's set in stone. The Carolina Hurricanes are going to win the Stanley Cup this year. The beautiful year of 2025. I'm not able to skip any of this, by the way, so I'll have to give it a second, but there you go. It is official. Joining the Florida Panthers right alongside of them. And we will see. I mean, we did see that Sebastian Aho won the Conn Smythe. I imagine Nathan MacKinnon led playoff scoring, though. I mean, he was crushing it. He was absolutely crushing it. So, let's see here. Again, Carolina, Stanley Cup champs, playoff mode now complete. Oops, that's not what I meant to look at there, although I suppose we could. I don't think the team stats are as interesting, but again, one more look there at the bracket. Carolina going through New Jersey, Montreal, surviving Game 7 against Toronto, surviving Game 7 against the Colorado Avalanche, as indeed Nathan MacKinnon was just insane. We'll take a look here at the top scorers for all teams, just in case people were interested. I'm not going to scroll through everything. But Aho leading the way there for Carolina. MacKinnon and Nate just carrying for Colorado. Of course, Dallas lost in the first round. Got quite a bit out of Rantanen. Johnston, though, quite a few guys at a point per game. Oilers, I mean, McDavid at a point per game, but we saw what McKinnon was able to do. Draisaitl, just 12 points. Florida didn't have a single player at a point per game. Let's take a look at LA. Kopitar, Doughty, really strong efforts. Didn't matter. Still bounced in the first round. Minnesota, great performance there out of the top 3. Wasn't enough. Demidov led in scoring for the Habs. He's showing up as an 85. I don't know if we put him at an 85 or not. Maybe we did. I guess that would explain. I thought he was like a 78 or something, but hey, what are you going to do? Daniel Sprong and Luke Hughes leading the way for the Devils. I mean, they're going to have to try to get the scoring wherever the hell they can get it from. That is for sure. But yeah, there you go, man. Carolina winning the Stanley Cup for the second time in franchise history. So close yet so far for the Leafs. And that Eichel Barbashev combination's pretty damn good. Caps bounced in the first round. Ovi just 1 goal in the 5 games. And then Winnipeg led in scoring by Nino Niederreiter. And just to look here at the goalies, of course, you got a couple of guys who weren't all that involved, but Freddie Anderson really leading the way. We'll just scroll down through here to see who really struggled the most. And Minnesota, Philip Gustafson, Wild. Maybe start Marc-Andre Fleury. It'd be a hell of a story. Anyway, everybody, thank you very much for joining me for my lone bit of playoff excitement. I hope you enjoyed it. We will be back next year, but enjoy the playoffs. We'll see how everything actually pans out. Let me know who you think's going to win the whole dang thing. And yeah, hey, catch you guys next time.